Welcome to this explainer. So, if you're balancing multiple classes or projects right now, I'm willing to bet you've fallen into a very specific, very common trap. It's what we call the trap of the balanced calendar. You know the drill. You look at your courses at the start of the week and you think, I should divide my study time equally between all of them. It sounds totally fair, right? It feels like the responsible, highly organized thing to do. But today, we're going to dismantle that widespread, really well-intentioned trap. Our goal here is to fundamentally shift how you view your schedule and to prove that when it comes to learning, equal time absolutely does not mean good time management.
Okay, let's dive into this. The flawed mindset asks, how can I give every course the exact same amount of time? It's a purely logistical question, right? It essentially treats all your classes like identical little boxes on a factory assembly line that just need to get checked off. But the strategic mindset, and this is the one that actually gets you results, asks a much better question. Where is my time going to make the biggest difference right now? We are moving away from the illusion of being perfectly equal to the reality of being highly effective. It's all about impact. You have to understand where your effort actually moves the needle.
Section 1. The equal time myth. Why fair isn't equal. So, let's systematically break down why perfectly even math just doesn't survive in the real world. Imagine a perfect 25% time allocation for 4 different courses. Visually, super satisfying. Mentally, it feels incredibly organized. But honestly, it's completely detached from reality. Giving exactly 25% of your time to each class completely ignores the fact that different courses have vastly different difficulty levels and assessment weights. Like, one might be a highly technical senior seminar, while another is just a breezy introductory elective. This even split basically assumes every single class requires the exact same cognitive load every single week. And well, we all know from experience that is literally never the case.
Instead, a real-world semester looks a lot more like this. In course number 1, you understand the material beautifully, you're comfortably keeping up, and you've got it handled with minimal effort. Great! But in course number 2, you are actively struggling with a fundamental concept. And this isn't just a minor detail, this is a foundational theory you absolutely need to master because the whole rest of the semester builds directly on top of it. And to top the whole thing off, you've got a massive assignment due next week in a third, completely different class. The demands pulling at your attention are everywhere, and they are highly, highly uneven.
Let's just zero in on that major assignment for a second. 40%. That is the massive weight of this single upcoming task. Now ask yourself, does it make any logical sense whatsoever to give an assignment worth 40% of your entire grade the exact same amount of study time as a course where you're already comfortably coasting? No way, of course not. To survive a week like this, you need to temporarily dedicate way more time to that difficult concept and this looming major assignment. It's not that your other courses are suddenly unimportant, it just means you're prioritizing based on reality instead of some artificial, perfectly balanced schedule.
Section 2. The comfort trap. Comfortable delays.
So if the math is so incredibly obvious, if a 40% paper clearly demands more time, why do we still try so hard to balance things equally? Well, the answer is captured beautifully in this quote from our source material. Focus on the big things and don't let the small things consume all your energy. Look, your time and your cognitive energy are highly limited resources. Every single hour you spend studying drains the tank just a little bit more. Good time management isn't about giving every single task a participation trophy and treating them perfectly equally. It's about making deliberate, really calculated choices about where those limited resources are going to yield the absolute best results for you.
But here's the catch, right? Doing the big, hard things is uncomfortable. So what do we do instead? We fall straight into productive procrastination. I mean, have you ever spent hours making your notes look absolutely pristine? Or endlessly formatting a document so the margins and fonts are just, chef's kiss perfect? Or maybe you find yourself repeatedly reviewing flashcards for a chapter you already thoroughly know backwards and forwards. We do this because these activities feel comfortable. It feels like we're working, but all the while these safe little tasks are quietly draining your limited energy tank, while the truly difficult assignment, the scary concept you actually need to tackle, keeps getting endlessly postponed.
Section 3. The 3 Pillars Framework. Prioritize effectively.
Let's pivot away from the chaos of the comfort trap and talk about the actual solution. We need a dynamic framework to prioritize tasks based on real-world demands. Now, what's really interesting about this framework is that it helps you filter everything on your plate by weighing it against importance, urgency, and difficulty. Importance asks, how much does this task matter? Are we talking about a massive final paper or just a tiny weekly participation quiz? Urgency asks, when does it actually need to be done? Is the deadline tomorrow morning, next week, or a month from now? And finally, difficulty asks, where do you need the most effort? Like, which specific equation or historical era are you genuinely struggling to grasp right now? By actively asking these 3 specific trigger questions, you can finally weigh a massive project fairly against a routine reading. The absolute crucial takeaway here is that your study time must adapt as these 3 pillars change. Your schedule is not some static document that you lock in on the first day of the semester, pin to your bulletin board, and never touch again. It's a living, breathing strategy. As new assignments drop, as deadlines suddenly rush towards you, and as unexpectedly difficult concepts pop up in lectures, your allocation of time must shift right along with them. Because if your schedule doesn't bend, it breaks.
Section 4, Weekly Strategy, Actionable Routine.
Okay, we've covered the theory, so let's transition into a highly actionable routine that you can start using right away. Here's your weekly audit. I want you to run through these 3 simple questions every single week before you start working, maybe on a Sunday evening when you're looking ahead at the week. Number 1, what matters most this week? Number 2, what is most urgent? And number 3, where am I most at risk of falling behind? Use these 3 questions as a strict checklist. Let your honest answers dictate exactly how you allocate your effort for the days ahead, rather than just defaulting to that easy, visually pleasing, but ultimately unhelpful even split we talked about at the very beginning.
Which brings us to the recurring motif of this entire explainer. Fair does not always mean equal. Seriously, if you take one thing away from this, let it be that phrase. Let go of the guilt of not opening a textbook for one class on a Tuesday because you desperately need to save your grade in another class that same night. Good study planning does not mean giving every course the exact same number of hours. It means putting your precious time exactly where it matters most on any given week.
Fair does not always mean equal. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a hard look at your own calendar, completely rethink how you're dividing your energy, and ask yourself this: where does your time matter most today?